Hi, everyone. Welcome to
There you go.
Conference Connection. Glad to be here tonight. I am Dr. David Morgan, my good friend Chad Hymas.
Dr. Chad Hymas.
Dr. Chad Hymas, coming to you from...
Has a nice ring to it, yeah.
It does have a nice ring, yeah. Coming to you
There's
from
no
the
paperwork
beautiful
to back
state
that
of
up,
Utah.
yeah.
Oh, Chad, it's only a matter of time before someone gives you an honorary doctorate. So
there we go.
You'll be Dr. Chad Hymas one of these
Okay.
days, and I'll give you one. I'll give you one.
You can hand them out freely. Sure.
Officially now, officially now. Welcoming my brand new doctor friend Chad Hymas.
There you go. Glad to have everyone on board tonight. We're if you can't tell already, this is we do take things seriously, but we do like to have a little bit of fun. So
absolutely, yeah. You get two friends together to talk, and that's what we do. Yeah, so,
right.
Well, every second and fourth Sundays we get together. Chad and I get together and talk about a talk from the most recent General Conference. That's exactly what we're going to do tonight. To do a deep dive, kind of a more significant study into the words that we've been taught by the sister and brother leaders of the church. And we're super grateful to Shane and Mandy Johnson of Onward Productions up in Montpelier, Idaho, who had this idea a couple of years ago. And I know we say this every time, but it's been a great blessing for us to take the opportunity to really drill down into these topics. And hopefully you learn something too. Hopefully you are studying these conference talks well after General Conference, because they are good for all seasons.
I think that, as we watch General Conference, they're so fast, 17 minutes, 18 minutes,
right?
And no one comes up and they just get right into their talk. It's the deep dives afterwards where you go back and you can have them immediately afterwards. I mean, with online and being online, they post it immediately. And so the ability to go back and to study and to meditate on these talks and to dive deeper into some of the references they pinpoint to in these talks, really advantageous. And what a blessing it is to have the internet for that opportunity. Yeah. So I would encourage everybody watching tonight to do that. That's been one of the big perks of doing this with you, David, for me, is to be able to dive deeper into and to not forget what was taught to us. And then I find myself going back and actually hearing the actual voice of Elder Christophers, or the brother and President Nelson actually saying it, because I heard it, and I heard him say it live on the television set, or while I was at conference in person, and then you read it again, and it becomes more meaningful, a little more powerful, I think, when you read it.
I believe so. Well, and I know this never happens to you, but every once in a while, I might doze off during General Conference, and
never happens.
I know that never happens to you, but that. I will admit that's happened to me. So in those cases, it's even better to go back and look at it, right? Because then it's new. This is one I did not doze off in.
A little bit late to second session because you're overindulging in between lunch.
That's right.
You get there right there past the first hymn and into the second talk. Your lunch.
I tell you,
2 hours.
It's probably been 5 or 6 years ago since we got rid of cable television, just because most of the stuff we watched, we were just watching on, Netflix and Hulu and stuff like that. But the thing I really missed was the DVR, because then I could record conference
you can't
and then watch it anytime I want. Now I'm kind of watching it live. And so you're right. If I'm late from lunch, then I might miss that first talk. But anyway, so tonight we are talking about
Elder Allen.
Elder Allen, that's right. Elder Allen D. Haynie,
a
living prophet for the latter days.
Great talk.
Super excited about this. Yeah, this is a great talk.
Yeah, I love this talk. I love how he. You can give us some background on him, can you? Can you give us some background on him?
Yeah, I will. Let's talk a little bit about Elder Haynie first, and then we'll kind of get into that. So. Elder Haynie, Allen D. Haynie, was sustained as a General Authority 70 of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints on April 4th, 2015. So he's been around for a little while. I don't remember ever hearing him speak in General Conference.
No, I don't either. This is the first time I saw him,
and it was a great talk. I think he became. It was one of the favorites of General Conference.
Yeah.
Elder Haynie was sustained in April 2015. At the time of his call, he had been serving as a member of the 5th Quorum of the 70 in the North America West area. So the first Quorum of the 70 are the ones that serve up until they're 70 years old. The rest of the quorums are called Area Authority 70s, and they serve for just a period of like 5 years, usually less. once you get into that first quorum, which Elder Haynie is in, you're there till you're 70. But he started in the fifth quorum, North America West. He previously served as a member of the Philippines Area Presidency, North America Northeast Area Presidency, South America South Area Presidency, and is currently area president in the North America Northeast area. Looks like he travels almost as much as you, Chad. He's getting all over the world here.
So maybe just identify a little bit when you, again, that's not part of the talk, but the 70, they are in charge of different areas of the church and help out missionary efforts and oversee different areas of the church and construction of buildings and breaking, increasing wards and branches and making sure that the church's growth is expanding. The three branches of the church: proclaiming the gospel, right, building temples, and they oversee all that. So
exactly right. Before his calling to the 70, he was a full-time missionary in Argentina, Cordoba, elders quorum president, young men's president, seminary teacher. I bet he was a great seminary teacher, high counselor, bishop, and stake president. His professional life, he got a bachelor's degree in 82 and a Juris Doctor in 85, both from BYU. And he practiced law for 25 years with the international law firm Latham and Watkins, and then subsequently opened his own law firm. He is from Logan, Utah, one of your favorite places, Chad.
Yeah,
in Cache Valley.
That's where my kids are at.
Yep. In 1958, he married Deborah Ruth Hall in 83, and they are the parents of 6 children. And probably, I would imagine he has grandkids by now, but doesn't say anything about that. But that's your second. If Cache Valley is your second favorite thing, then grandkids are your first favorite thing, right, Chad?
That's right.
Absolutely. So Elder Haynie's talk, like we said, is called A Living Prophet for the Latter Days. And it's really just about prophets, and particularly President Nelson. And there's a particularly cool interaction he had with President Nelson. But he starts his talk talking about when he was a child. And I don't know if you remember, Chad, I used to do this all the time. Back before there was even cable television. What'd you do on Saturday mornings?
Tom and Jerry.
Cartoons.
He said he was flicking through the channels, and when he went to go watch his favorite cartoon, it was ironically replaced by some guy standing in a white shirt and tie, or sitting rather. He said sitting.
Yes. And
he was disappointed that his favorite cartoon wasn't on that Saturday morning, and it was replaced by General Conference. And his brother told him that's a prophet. And while it did pierce him, and he began to, feel something about prophet, that was his first introduction to prophets, and began to be peculiar about what prophets are, he quickly changed the channels, went back to looking for more cartoons, because that's what a young boy does. But that was his first introduction to prophets, and that's how he starts his talk. And I thought it was very, very relative to me, because that's exactly what I do as an adult.
Look for switch the channel. Well, those our age remember that, watching cartoons. We used to. I remember we lived in Wyoming for a few years, and the coveted spot was right next to the television, over the floor vent, and then you would put a blanket over the floor vent and over you, and so when the heat would blow up, it would create this little balloon of hot air underneath the. That was great. That was the best spot, and it was right there by the television. But he talks about that. And prophets come and go. Obviously, our current prophet is President Russell M. Nelson, but that we need to know by revelation that the president of the church is the prophet. It's not a static thing like the Book of Mormon is true. The Book of Mormon doesn't get re-released every year, right? And you have to learn again if it's true, or that Joseph Smith was a prophet. But every time a new prophet is sustained, then it's up to each of us to get our own confirming witness that person is the current person that God wants to be his prophet. I've had that experience a couple of times. I remember years ago we were home from trek. We just gone on trek, and we were at a fireside, a post-trek fireside, and it was going on just fine. And then at the end of the fireside, the stake president got up to speak, and he announced that President Hinckley had just died, that he had just got news. And this was years ago. I don't know how he found out, because it wasn't like Twitter wasn't around and Facebook and that sort of stuff. But he announced that President Hinckley had died. And then a couple weeks later, I was in a training meeting for the stake, and it was a broadcast, and they had all of these pre-recorded things, and then at the very end they had one you could tell was clearly inserted late, and it was President Monson, who was then the new president of the church, and he just spoke briefly over video, and I just had a very strong impression. I just knew when he was talking, I thought, this guy is the prophet. I've had a similar experience with President Nelson. Sure, I'll have a similar experience with whoever's next, probably President Oaks, but we'll wait and see. But each one of us have to get our own witness of that. Otherwise, I mean, why would you follow him? Why would you follow what he did if you didn't believe that he was the prophet of God?
Very fair to say. And he says and goes on where he says, this having a prophet on the earth changes the game for everything. Having someone to guide us, that knowing that we're being led by not just a human being that is making guesstimates or giving some sort of forecast of what the future looks like, but the prophet is, we are to follow the prophet, and we are to listen and heed to his words, and even through the challenges that have been prophesied of all about the destruction, rumors of wars, and how Satan is going to have a lot of control in latter days. If we will stay firm to a prophet, it changes the game for each one of us that are believers in our Savior, and helps us get through those challenges that are forecasted and prophesied to be here. And so I love that point of this talk. He also said this in that same paragraph. He said, a prophet, he just gives us a definition. A prophet is someone God has personally prepared, called, corrected, inspired, rebuked, sanctified, and sustained. That is why we are never spiritually at risk in following prophetic counsel. So that person has been prepared from long before he was ever born, and prepared to be a prophet at that time. And so I found that there's only a select few men in comparison to all the men that have ever been a prophet on the face of the earth. There's only been just a handful. Dozens, but if you want to get down to it, there's not too many men that God has had in a classroom. So you're going to be one of my prophets.
Exactly.
Right. So that's a unique group.
Oh yeah, if you figure maybe hundreds, since the world began, but you're talking trillions upon trillions of people who have ever lived on the earth, right? I mean, that's not even there's so many zeros ahead of that 0.0000001% or whatever. I mean, it's a very, very exclusive group.
These are very, very righteous men that have
absolutely ready to meet the call. Well, and it's interesting. You mentioned how he refers to like the second coming and some of the calamities that are prophesied and why we should listen to the prophet. And that sometimes there's a lot of people out there that panic and they get really worried about the future. They're worried about current political, economic issues and stuff like that. And the thing I always do is I look to see what the prophet is doing. When President Nelson or whoever the current prophet is, when he gets up in general conference and has panic in his voice, then I will start to worry. But as long as he is speaking calmly and just saying, it's going to be fine, I believe that. I have to believe that, because I don't think that they're going to get up. They're not going to get up there and lie to us. And the whole point is they're trying to teach us to have faith so that we can be calm even in the midst of difficulty.
I don't know that we're going to see a panicking prophet, because they have a better vision on where we're going and what's to come. Yeah. And the scriptures say, those that know me and those that know the prophets shall have no fear. So I don't know that we're ever going to see a panicking prophet. We are going to see a prophet that leads. Exactly. Look at Moses. When they were coming to chase him down, everybody's panicking, and Moses said, "Hey, what are you guys afraid of? I mean, I know we're against the ocean. I mean, this is a cakewalk. We're just going to part the sea. We'll get across. It's okay.
It's gonna be fine."
I don't know that we're ever going to see a prophet that panics. He might worry about the saints. He might feel sorry that the saints are following and that they're not, that they lose faith, or that they don't show the hope, or that even after being rescued. I mean, look again back to Moses and all the people of Egypt that he freed, and after seeing all these miracles and what Heavenly Father, they still panicked and they still worshipped idols after seeing all the miracles. And so I don't know that a panicked prophet, he feels bad that maybe, do you ever think that a prophet feels like they feel unworthy to the cause? I think Moses did. I think
Moses definitely did.
I mean, think about even in today's world that so many people are going astray, or maybe we have fewer missionaries than we've had in the past, and the prophet feels bad and feels, I wish I was doing a better job. Well, that's probably part of God's plan. That things are going to kind of waver on this cycle, and they're not always going to be going on an upscale. I think that the world is going to go down, and many of the saints, unfortunately, are going to go with that. And the prophet has to feel bad about that. That in a panic mode, they know where they're at. You know what he said though that really kind of hit me right here in this area of his talk. He talked about prophets being called David of God, but he also said this. He said that we are all called. And it says right here, whether we like it or not, all of us were chosen in some fashion in the pre-earth life to be born in these latter days. And there are two realities that are associated with these latter days. The first reality is that Christ's church will be reestablished on the earth. So we know that's taken place. Mm-hmm. The second reality is that things are going to get really challenging.
Right.
And that's kind of what we're talking about right now. The panicking, they're going to get very, very difficult. And a prophet is there to help us through those challenging times and to guide us. And if we'll hold firm to that and stay firm to the prophet and be one of the, I don't know if you want to call it one of the few, but one of the people that, one of the individuals that follow the prophet, stay firm to that, there is no need to fear. There's no need to panic because it's prophesied that things are going to get bad. And if we stay firm to the iron rod and hold to that, we're going to be okay. It's going to be okay. It doesn't mean we're not going to be sad. It doesn't mean that we're not going to shed some tears or have some bruises and bumps along the way. But we're going to be all right. And he goes on and he talks about he says this. The scriptures reveal that in the latter days, a great hailstorm sent forth will destroy the crops of the earth. He goes into detail. Wars and rumors of wars, and the whole earth shall be in commotion, and iniquity shall abound.
Yeah,
that's pretty panicking. But
right.
But the prophet doesn't go that direction. They know that already, and so their job is going to be to guide and to lead us through that by receiving revelation from our Father in heaven.
Absolutely. Well, and you were talking earlier about insecurities and how prophets historically have felt insecure, worried that they're not doing their job. And Elder Haynie talks about a time where he felt insecure. He talks about I guess there's a cafeteria in the church office building where people have lunch and stuff. And so he's there getting his lunch, and then he's got his tray. He's walking to find a place to sit, and he sees a table for 4 with 3 people seated at the table. It's the first presidency of the church, President Nelson, President Oaks, and President Eyring, one empty chair. And he says, immediately my security has made me turn and go the other way. He says, I'm there's no way I'm sitting with those guys just because who am I? Who the heck am I, right, to sit with those guys? And then all of a sudden he hears President Nelson's voice, Alan, come join us. And well, what are you going to do then, right? You got to turn around and sit down. So that he sits down and has lunch with the first presidency. Holy cow, what a treat. And how cool that President Nelson, here's literally the most important man in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Probably easy to get a big head if you wanted to, but he just says, hey, come join us. He's thinking, we're just regular people. Come sit with us. They're not regular people. They're prophets, seers, and revelators. They literally, guide the kingdom of God on earth. But so he ends up sitting with them, says he has a great time. But then when they're done, President Nelson, he's been drinking from a plastic water bottle.
Here, I got one right here. Yeah, just picture this in your mind.
Yeah,
you can share it. He's got one of these.
Yeah. There you go. Exactly. He's got exactly what Chad's got. And he says he removes the cap and then crushes the water bottle down vertically, and then puts the cap back on. So now it's just small, now it's
shrunk.
It's shrunk, And so then
President Oaks.
President Oaks says to him, he says, well, President Nelson, why did you flatten your plastic water bottle? And in classic President Nelson fashion, he says, well, it just makes it easier for the recycling people. And I'm going, man, here's this guy. He's thinking about the recycling people. He's thinking about the people having to handle the recycling. How can I make their job easier? As this man's in charge of 16 million members of the church. And he's thinking, how can I make the job easier for someone else? And so then both President Oakes and President Eyring happen to have a plastic water bottle as well. And what do? They crush it the exact same way. And then Elder Haynie leans over to President Oakes.
Yeah.
And he says, is flattening your plastic water bottle a new recycling requirement of the cafeteria?
New policy, new policy and procedure.
Yeah. Is this a new policy? And President Oakes responded with a smile on his face, well, Alan, you need to follow the prophet. And I thought, what a great story.
There's a great metaphor right there, but what a great story. I mean, and if you remember, the congregation just died. They just laughed.
Oh, yeah.
Because we're always, we're always told in the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints to follow the prophet. We sing hymns about it all the time. We talk about it in church talks. We bear testimony about it. And here, I guess we should probably eat what he eats, break bread as he breaks bread, right? Put in our shirt the exact way he buttons up his shirt. Father, I just thought it was a great moment to capitalize on a cliche phrase in the church and bring a little bit of humor to his talk, which he did a great job. Throughout this whole talk, he did a great job. It was phenomenal. And
then he goes on to say, now, he says, I'm confident that President Nelson was not declaring some new recycling doctrine that day. But the point is well taken. And he quotes Elder Neil A. Maxwell, who was in the Quorum of the 12 Apostles years ago. And he says, Elder Maxwell said, in the months and years ahead, events are likely to require each member to decide whether or not he or she will follow the first presidency. Yeah. Members will find it more difficult to halt longer between two opinions. Let us leave a record so that the choices are clear, letting others do as they will in the face of prophetic counsel. And then he talks about the responsibility that parents have. And when parents ignore the counsel of the living prophet, then that is setting a bad example for their children. Yeah. And it's interesting to me. I've seen multiple situations I won't go into right now, but where I see faithful members of the church trying to justify their way out of following specific things that the prophet has recommended and saying, well, that's just his opinion or whatever. I guarantee you're not going to find a finer opinion on the earth than President Russell M. Nelson. Whether he's inspired or not, it doesn't matter. His opinion is good to follow no matter what the circumstance is. It goes on, Elder Richard L. Evans, he says, some parents mistakenly feel they can relax a little as to conduct and conformity, that they can ease up a little on the fundamentals without affecting their family or their family's future. But if a parent goes a little off course, their children are likely to exceed the parent's example, which is what he's saying is if you, Chad, or I as a parent go a little bit off course, our children are likely to go even further off course.
It doesn't take much, does it? No. And to capitalize on that, he compares that, talks about the fig tree when it gets a little hot and how the world's getting right. And parents were faltering that. I mean, the exact verbiage that he uses. They said Jesus said that when the fig trees put forth their leaves, summer is nigh. Thus warn that summer is upon us. Let us not then complain of the heat. Then he says the rising generation is growing up at a time when there are more fig leaves and there is more heat. Yeah. Parents, it behooves us as parents to endure through that heat and be an example to our children. I've heard this said before that, a reflection of children, you look at their parents, and how they're raised. Now, that's not always the case, right? Because there comes a time in a young man or young woman's life where they have to make choices for themselves. Right. And I know a lot of great families that have had troubled teenagers, and the parents did a great job in trying to raise them. So this is not a bash on parents at all. I think as parents, we need to not beat ourselves up and blame ourselves for bad choices that our children make. They have to make choices for themselves. There comes a time and place. But that said, as parents, that doesn't give us an excuse to not bring them up in the gospel of Jesus Christ, or to forego our responsibility to share our testimonies with them, let them know how much self-worth they have, how much self-value they have, and to continue to be examples through prayer, work, and deed. And then let our children, do you think that Laman and Lemuel had bad parents?
Right.
I'm just saying, do you think that Laman and Lemuel, we know that Nephi, we know that Lehi was an incredible father, an incredible prophet of God, and obedient and faithful no matter what. Even when sometimes his wife didn't agree with the decision, we knew that he stayed firm to God and tried to comfort his wife. Laman and Lemuel totally deterred, and they had good parents.
Yeah,
that followed Christ. And so, as parents, we can't beat ourselves up, but we need to remember to be like Father Lehi and others in the Old Testament, as well. I also heard something that Elder Holland said that relates to this talk, where a lady said to Elder Holland, she said, I'm doing everything that I can to receive blessings, and God is not blessing my life right now in these hard times with a family. I can't bear children, and I'm going to the temple, and I'm doing everything that I'm fasting, I'm praying, and I'm doing everything. And Elder Holland says, dear sister, I'm worried that you're getting yourself. He's talking to this group of probably 30 people. It's on YouTube. Right. You look at it, it's on YouTube. Have you seen it before? You know what I'm talking about?
I have seen it. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It's so powerful.
It's really good. Very powerful.
It is good. Dear sister, please don't get caught up in this trap that because you can't have children, that God is somehow punishing you. There's not one person in the book that did not go through adversity. Right. Not one. Simon crucified upside down. Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Abraham, Isaac. I mean, it goes on and on. There's not one person in the Book of Mormon, in the Doctrine and Covenants, Joseph Smith, the Joseph Smith's brother, Porter Rockwell. I mean, the Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. I mean, we can go on. There's not one that did not go through some form of adversity. And here, again, it just reminded me that if we go through these adversities, these challenges, and we're unable to have children, I can't walk. If I stay firm, that's how I was thinking. I was thinking about me not being able to walk or not feel my hands. If I can just forget about this for a moment and stay firm and play my role in the symphony, I'm going to be okay. I'll be all right. My marriage is going to be okay. My children will be okay if I can stay firm. So that's the catch, isn't it? To stay firm and hold fast to the prophet's words. I think that's what he's saying in his talk. Hold firm, stay close to the prophet, brothers and sisters, and do what you're supposed to do. And everything will be okay. It'll work out. Yeah.
Well, and like you said, parents are not responsible for the poor decisions their children make, and they should not blame themselves. Parents should blame themselves for the poor choices they make themselves. And we need to be constantly aware of the influence we do have on our children, and the example that we're setting for them, the things that we're telling them, all of that. And so I think that's one of the keys is learning to be responsible where we need to be responsible, and then learning not to take responsibility where we don't have accountability. He ends the talk by saying, because we all fall short, right? We're not going to follow the prophet's counsel perfectly. As parents, we may have been bad examples in the past, all of these things. And sometimes that's cause for lament and, oh my gosh, I'm a terrible person. This is what he says. Some of you may feel you have fallen short in your efforts to follow the counsel of President Russell M. Nelson. If that is the case, then repent. Begin again to follow the counsel of God's chosen prophet. Set aside the distraction of childish cartoons and trust the Lord's anointed. Rejoice because once again, there is a prophet in Israel. And then he provides his testimony of President Nelson, testifying he's a prophet. I know President Nelson is a prophet. I know 100% that if we follow what he says, that we are going to be happy and we're going to have peace. And that may mean there's difficulty to come, but that ultimate peace and happiness is what's reserved for those who follow the Lord and follow his prophet. So I think it's just something to remember. And I love Elder Haynie. Just love the way he explained it, from cartoons to water bottles, then just kind of bearing down in solid testimony and saying, you know what, this is the right way to go.
I would like to add my testimony to yours, that I do also believe with all my heart and have a strong testimony of a living prophet on the face of the earth. And that if we follow President Nelson, who has been called to be the prophet of this dispensation today, that we will be led in the right direction. And we have to listen closely and restudy the words that he's he said one more thing in his talk. He said that something about, don't let the prophets of the past, yes. Remember that? Help me say that right way, David. Don't let the
So
words and
basically,
prophets of the past not be replaced by the prophets of the future. I mean,
right. Basically, he said, right. He said, if President Nelson tells us to do something today, and then you go dig up something Brigham Young said and say, well, Brigham Young said to do it differently back then, therefore I'm going to follow Brigham Young instead of President Nelson. He says, no, you're doing it wrong. You follow the current prophet, each prophet for each time. And Brigham Young said some wonderful things. Yeah, and those things applied to the saints that lived in the 1800s, but they do not necessarily apply to the saints that live in 2023.
Yeah.
He did say that in his talk. Yes, we need to follow the counsel of the current prophet of the church, and don't justify your way out of
true?
Current words.
The commandments of Moses weren't the same commandments of Joshua. They changed over time. So we saw that same cycle. You see that in the Bible. You see that in the New Testament. You see that in the Old Testament. We see that in the Book of Mormon. So it's not. This is not new information. This is. But all too often we see ourselves kind of combating and saying, "Wait a second, this wasn't done back then," or "Wait a second, it was okay to, drink back then," or "It's okay to do this back then," or "Have a glass of wine." I'm just saying that I think it was spot on. It's common sense. It's something that's been repetitive. It's something that we should not be contentious about or be revolutionary about or say, "Hey, this guy's not a true prophet," because one of the prophets of old disagreed with that. I think that it's common sense. And if you have a question about it, pray about it.
Absolutely. Great point. I'm glad you brought that up, Chad, because that is something we didn't touch on, but it's a very, very important point.
Well, I usually have those at the end of our talks. I usually come up.
Hey, Chad's the man. Chad's got this stuff.
Maybe we should say amen right there and end it. We should say amen.
That's right. That's right. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you found this instructive, and again, we encourage you to study these conference talks, learn what you can, and help it guide and direct your life. And we'll see you again in a couple weeks.
Take care, everybody. Good night.